Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Wall. Mental health is a complex topic. We all have different challenges that are specific to our life circumstances. Thankfully, there are those who have dedicated their careers, and in the case of our guest today, their entire lives to helping others navigate the often complex nature of our mental health. Today, we're joined by Dr. Hasan Khalili, who's just released a new book called A Life Spent Listening. The book is described as a unique and engaging perspective of humanity and a journey of wisdom accomplished through shared stories of self-awareness, acceptance, and discovery. In A Life Spent Listening, Dr. Khalili reflects on over 4 decades of being a frontline community psychotherapist and shares lessons he's learned over the years. His approach is that he shares stories from his own life and the lives of his patients to help explain the human condition. So today he'll share some of his philosophies and techniques such as the Khalili grid to balance our lives. Now, Dr. Khalili has a unique story himself. He was a young Iranian immigrant to Newfoundland and Labrador, but is now heralded as one of the top psychologists in the province. He's also a huge advocate for health and has adventures on his resume including hiking Machu Picchu and Mount Kilimanjaro and even going to Antarctica. Let's listen in and see what it means to seek contentment and why he believes that we hold the key to our own happiness. Hi, Dr. Khalili. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you too. A beautiful day here in St. John's. I heard you just went for a hike, which is a great way to be active during the day. So you're all about health, but you're mostly about mental health. Tell me a bit about your past and how did you become a psychologist?
Well, my first degree was in counseling and children's psychology in 1970. And then I was interested at that time, interested in child psychology, but I realized that quickly I realized after a couple of years, I was good, but it was not good enough. Then I decided we have an agro-business in my homeland. And I said, well, I go to agro-business. Mm-hmm. But then I was good, again, I was good, but wasn't good enough. So I ended up going to US to get MBA. I started the MBA program, and when I was finishing up, the revolution happened. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going to waiting and I get a master in counseling, and I ended up studying PhD in adult psychology and counseling in University of Iowa. From there on, I've been basically a frontline psychologist I say over 40 some years.
Wow. So you've been practicing for 40 years. You've been dealing with a variety of different people. You said adults. Does that include professionals or people with trauma or all of the above?
Everything, because most of the latest of my practice was in Newfoundland, because I've been in Newfoundland since 85. Mm-hmm. I was invited to Newfoundland to become a senior psychologist in Waterford Hospital. Mm-hmm. And when I came in 85, I fell in love with Newfoundland, and even though I promised them 2 years, I ended up staying. Mm-hmm. So my first 10 or 12 years, I was hospital practice and a bit of private practice. Then eventually, I went to private practice, and it doesn't matter in hospital or outside. I was really involved and really loved what I did.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so you're here in Newfoundland. You've been here for the vast majority of your entire career. It's your home. What's the state of mental health here in the province? Is it a challenge for our population?
I think mental health, just people are realizing past number of years that they have to pay attention to it. Most of people, they know about physical health, but they didn't know about mental health. I remember when I started private practice, the usage of counseling was minimum. Mm-hmm. And as time passes, people realize how important mental health is. Basically, we tend to our physical health, but we don't attend to our mental health as much, especially as we grow up, we talk about it, but we're not taught how to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally. Mm-hmm. We keep a lot of bad mental habits and bad mental behavior which impact our mental health. When mental health is not well, obviously physical health is not well. And most of the time, two brain, the emotional brain and intellectual brain, they are not communicating well. They act separately.
Okay, so let's dig into that idea there about it impacting our overall health. I think some people don't really think of it as something that could impact some of the health conditions you heard of. Like, what are some of the medical ailments that can be impacted by having a poor state of mental health?
Well, most of the physical ailments have a mental health component. For example, we talk about the car accident.
Mm-hmm.
When people talk about breaking bones or hurting back, but lately, past number of years, realize is as much our mental health hurt by accident or anything that impacts us. So even our professional, we're limited into the what they can offer. And thanks God, the training has been expanding. Psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, all counselors become better and better. And they communicate with each other. The continuing education become better. And so I am very optimistic in future our mental health become better. The other side of the story is that we are very lucky. We are in Newfoundland. Being in Newfoundland, scenery, the culture, all of us help with our mental health. So compare ourselves to people in Ukraine now, compare ourselves in people in Afghanistan or other places that this political situation or social situation upside down, and what happened to mental health of people. One of the most important part is teaching our children, ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, because I am with me 24 hours. I'm with me all the time. What I tell myself, what I do with myself. So learning about myself, knowing my personality, knowing my mental habit, knowing what hurt my body, what hurt my mental health, and do something about it. That's something psychologist or counselor could help.
Right. And if I think about this, you go back to that learning aspect of it and teaching people things. I don't think we've ever really been taught a definition of what mental health is, both good and bad. Can you give us a sort of Cole's Notes version on how you would explain what mental health is to somebody?
First thing that you get to know what feeling you are experiencing. Is being one of the things, be mindful of your feeling. For example, the definition of different feeling. For example, when a person is anxious, what does anxiety mean? Why the anxiety come? When they feel guilty of something. So one of the first things we need to teach people to understand their own feeling and put a name to it. Understand where they come from, why they carry it on, how long lasts. A lot of those negative feelings can be taught to be able to moderate it and deal with it. For example, grief. If the grief is something normal, people go to it. But there are ways of grieving that make it more healthy grieving.
That's right. We're going to have emotions no matter what. It's how we deal with those emotions that really makes a difference in whether or not we're healthy or sick.
Yeah. For example, people say, I was angry when I was because of traffic. And I tell people, I say, really, traffic didn't make you angry. You permit yourself to be angry. We need to understand or to understand why we allow that. They say, well, weather of Newfoundland make people depressed. Really, weather does it or we do it. We permit ourselves to do it. I grew up in a very hot place. And I lived more than half of my life in Newfoundland. And I love Newfoundland. The weather, it does bother me, but doesn't go too far. Yeah, and because I acknowledge it, but I don't permit myself to allow the weather get to me or somebody else's word get to me. So is the relationship we have to ourselves, the way we process negativity, the process communication, the process impact of anything happen to us, stress, how we can do it. That's where the state of mental health is. If a person doesn't know how to wear, for example, if we wear wrong shoes, we end up having a sore foot. But the same thing, we have we keep on doing bad behavior. Result of it will be a bad mental health. Say, for example, I go to bed late. I have to correct my sleeping habit. So then, so a sleeping habit, diet habit, conversation habit, especially self-conversation. These are all part of mental health.
That's Dr. Hasan Khalili, author of the book, A Life Spent Listening. He's spent over 40 years counseling individuals on all aspects of mental health. His book is a collection of stories that help us navigate the human condition and our challenges with stress and mental health. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. We're here with Dr. Hasan Khalili, author of the new book, A Life Spent Listening. He's sharing some of the many lessons he's learned through his 40 years of clinical practice as a frontline psychologist. Let's check back in and learn more from Dr. Khalili. You have such a unique understanding of the different challenges we have here in Newfoundland, but also just in people in general, and you've put them together in a brand new book that's being released. Can you tell us about your new book?
Well, I really didn't plan to write a book, but end up writing a book because I was afraid I forget what I have learned from my experience. I learned most of my skill I learned from my patient.
Yeah.
What I have learned, I translated in a small book with simple language, because majority of what I'm talking about is simple, that I have dealt with it over the 40, 45 years, 50 years of working. For example, purpose of life. What's our purpose? You know, I put 2 chapters on purpose of life. Even people put expectation on themselves, then by age of 30, 40, 50, they become defeated.
So it sounds like your motivation to read the book was because you've had these amazing experiences with patients, and you know you've got so many stories that you think other people will benefit from. Is that the main reason?
The main reason was this was second thing, but main reason was I didn't want to forget it. And then because I forget it, it will be lost. So I put them in a small book, so people would be able to benefit of it. That's the motivation of it. And I think the lesson learned from what I've been listening is make sense to reader that have their own time, read it in a very simple manner. So I explain every aspect of it.
That's perfect. Well, it's funny because I did read it, and all of the sections are so nice and concise, because sometimes when you're dealing with something like mental health, you don't want to be reading like chapters upon chapters or like pages upon pages to get to the point. Now, you broke your book up into 4 really sort of digestible sections. And the first one says that you need to find your place in life. What does that mean?
I go to my own experience. When I was kid, I grew up in a very hot environment, religious environment that was not child-friendly. And as a kid, I was looking for something to make my life sweet and delicious. It was a bakery in my hometown that he make the cream puff, and the cream puff become a symbolic way for me to create a cream puff state in my head. And so everything that was people talk about the first kiss, a teenager kiss. I didn't experience it because we weren't allowed, but right. the sense of deliciousness, softness, gentleness, positiveness, that's what the cream puff state was created for me. But then over the course of the years, I added to this word that I created: friendship, nice scenery, nice conversation, happy jokes, friendship, anything that I could find that I put in, expand my cream puff word. The more cream puff word expanded, the less space was for negativity.
I love that.
I created a word that every time it belonged to me, belonged to a little guy inside of me, and every time I want, I can get in. I don't need anybody's permission, and I can put anything. So, and a small positive things become big, and big negative things become small.
That's interesting. So you can almost trigger those emotions. And, one of the things you talked about is like expanding that word to be more and more positive. And one of the things I really found interesting was talking about the Khalili square and how we have to have balance in life. Can you explain to our listeners what the Khalili square is and how they should try and organize that in their lives?
Well, I have to give you an example I've given in the book, in order for people to understand. Many years ago, a gentleman who's older than me came to see me. He was a wealthy, gentle, polite, handsome man. But he had third marriage breaking down and 2 heart attack. Wealthy man, everything he had, but was not obviously. And I said to myself, why is that? Then I had coffee in my office. I offered him. I don't usually have that service, but that particular day, I offered him. He accepted. I put a little coffee in the cup. He took the coffee and downed it like tequila. And I said, why are you drinking coffee like that? He said, it's a coffee. And I said, coffee is for talking and resting. Say, I don't have time for that. I realized there is an imbalance in his life, So then I gradually developed this Khalili grid, which is I divide our life in 4 parts. Our health, which is number 1. That's include mental health, physical health, cultural health, religious health, spiritual health, any health that make us more healthy. It's not only physical. The second is family, home, and how healthy is my home life. That include my friend, my family, my extended family, my spouse, my children, and next, say my work. How happy, how good my work is. Am I matched with my work? Is it matches my personality? Is it healthy? The way I work is healthy. And then next one is how is my hobby? What kind of thing I like to do? So a lot of people in 4 of them, sometimes they spend too much time in one. Like how many professionals that work 60, 70 hours a week and expecting to be happy? It's not going to be that way. Or they have no hobby at all, or you have too much hobby, too much Xbox, too much alcohol, too much bar going, Or in family side, they are in wrong relationship. It's not peaceful. Some people even, they don't have a good diet. So they depend on which part of this quadrant is the need help or need fixing. Then give me a chance to say, okay, now we need to work on this. We know we know you're not stressed out because, for example, your hours of work is not correct, or the way you expect from work is wrong expectation. Doesn't matter what you said, but we can put our finger in any of those and say the balance will arrive. And they have all of them. There's something in it. They have more hobbies. They have a good life, a good work life. They have a good home life. But they have to work on these things. It doesn't come by itself naturally. All of them need discipline.
That's Dr. Hasan Khalili, author of the book, A Life Spent Listening. He's spent over 40 years counseling individuals on all aspects of mental health. His book is a collection of stories that help us navigate the human condition and our challenges with stress and mental health. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. We're here with Dr. Hasan Khalili, author of the new book, A Life Spent Listening. He's sharing some of the many lessons he's learned through his 40 years of clinical practice as a frontline psychologist. Let's check back in and learn more from Dr. Khalili. I used to work with people all the time, and my goal with them was to improve their health as well as their work, as well as their hobbies and recreation, find different ways for them to have an overall sense of being outside of what they do for a living. So I think that's extremely profound and really important. And I guess one of the other things that popped up as a key word in your book was know thyself. In other words, like understanding our personality. And maybe, for example, that gentleman who came into your office, maybe he wasn't aware of who he was as a person. Is that something you
exactly?
You talk about?
Yeah, exactly. When we talk about personality, from professionally speaking, people say, "Oh, is this personality like that?" But there are two aspects of ourselves. One is that we are born with it, traits like the color of our eyes. The certain things come with us that naturally part of us, but that's a small part. The bigger part is we develop to deal with the world. So there are four aspects to this, the four wall of personality. One, our perception, how we perceive things. If there is our perception is off. Perception is not is wrong way of doing perceiving things. That's where the personality always translates something to something else. So perception is how we translate what event happened, how we translate what person said. The second part is, which is as important, is how we manage our emotion, how much we know about our emotion, how we can understand our feeling, what feeling our body or my mind produce more, and how we can teach our perception or thinking habit to bring more positive feeling. Generally speaking, if the person have difficulty managing emotion, that's where the personality disorders start coming up. Third one, how we relate to others, how we relate to world, interpersonal, and learning social skill, learning communicate with other people. So interpersonal relationship is another aspect of personality. We need to know. And if people say, "Oh, I'm like that," where does come from? If it's not working for you, why are you keeping it? And then how we the next one, how we deal with our impulses. When I feel like drinking, if I feel eating, I feel saying something, how I manage my impulses. If I get angry with someone, want to say something, our perception or emotion has to come in to manage it, to not say, "Oh, I said because I was angry." Why you get angry? Where did it come from? How often you get angry? And do you know how anger develops? Where you're angry, where do your body, for example, body respond to you? For example, if I become angry, my mouth dry. The moment my mouth's dry, I know that I'm going wrong direction. My emotion going up, and my intelligence going down.
That's a good sign.
So personality, if we get to know ourselves, is more complicated than it just means saying it to you. But the four aspects of what I expect: perception, the way perceived, the way our mind work in terms of processing stimuli and processing what's come to us, how we manage our emotion that our body develop, how we deal with other people, how we manage our impulses, and then this, when we work through mental health, we put all of them in the right direction.
Right. And so you've actually, you've identified your challenges, yourself, and therefore you're able to take the right steps, learn the right skills, whatever it takes in order to sort of correct the imbalance that exists there. One of my favorite chapters in this, and I love the title of it because some of your titles are really funny, is, having a dirty mind. And just to clarify to all of our audience, it doesn't mean what you think, a dirty mind. Do you want to explain what you mean by that phrase? Because that goes hand in hand with what you just said.
that's a larger thing to think about. And I said many times, when there is a dirt in my hand, I go to water and soap it and clean them up.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a dirt in my clothes, I change the clothes. If my hair is out of the place, I comb them up. But when our mind get negative and keep the negative images, negative feeling, negative thing that we keep it, and we call them, well, this happened to me, my childhood, it happened to my adulthood. We don't wash them, we keep them in.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time somebody said to me, I get very depressed every December. And I said, why is that? He said, that's me. I get every. I said, well, doesn't make sense. And then she explained to me that 15 years ago she lost somebody in December. And I said, 15 years ago, you still keep it. Why are you doing that? Because she decides to keep the dirt, the feeling sad and feeling grief for 15 years, and she take it. And I said, even the person you lost doesn't want you to feel that way. No. But unfortunately, we permit ourselves to keep some of the dirt inside of our brain.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So one of the things to learn how to wash it, how to let it go, and it's not complicated when you learn. I have thousands of examples to say. Any regret, any loss, anything that somebody hurt us, we feel guilty about, and depressed us, and we feared us. We keep all of these in, and we say, well, it's natural. It's not natural. We allow it. And when we allow it, then we keep it. We say, we cannot forget. Intellectually, we cannot forget because we don't have that ability. But we can let it go. Letting go does not mean justification, does not mean minimization. It means you let go. Mm-hmm. Just let it go because you decided. You have a power to let go.
That's Dr. Hasan Khalili, author of the book A Life Spent Listening. He's spent over 40 years counseling individuals on all aspects of mental health. His book is a collection of stories that help us navigate the human condition and our challenges with stress and mental health. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. We're here with Dr. Hasan Khalili, author of the new book, A Life Spent Listening. He's sharing some of the many lessons he's learned through his 40 years of clinical practice as a frontline psychologist. Let's check back in and learn more from Dr. Khalili. So what you're saying there about the dirty mind is sort of like hanging on to things in the past. And I've heard the saying that like the wake doesn't steer the ship. And I think about what are some of the past triggers that get us going the most in life? And that tends to be relationships for a lot of people. And a big part of your book is dedicated to helping navigate relationships. Can you explain the concept of the marriage garden to us?
Yeah. And I said it, that I need to give an example of what I mean by marriage garden. Mm-hmm. There was a couple came to see me. They have 4 or 5 kids. The youngest one was 17, 18. He was giving a hard time to them. They came for that consultation. When I asked question, the lady answered, the wife answered all questions. And then after about 10 or 15 minutes, I turned to him and I asked him, I want you to answer this question. And he become like a kid. He put his face down, look at me like this, and like this, and it's quiet down. And his wife pulled her chair toward him, hold his hand, told me, Dr. Khalili, you hurt my husband. I realized that how good the relationship is. This is what my points was. There's a little guy inside of the man. Yeah. And there's a little girl inside of the girl, the wife. These two are friends. Mm-hmm. They are themselves. They don't have to be anybody else. They're accepted by adults. So there's the marriage garden there that they can play it. So when he was become weak and become scared, she came in. She didn't have to explain herself. She was someplace protected. How many of our relationships are like that? That the person who has become alone, become lonely, has to defend himself or herself. But when you're in a good relationship, you're accepted, and you love each other. You are yourself. You put your defense down, and you're safe in the garden you are in. The more we have that type of relationship, the more our relationship lasts. With our best buddies, that's what happened to us. Right. The body will accept us.
Right. But for some reason, it doesn't translate to relationships as easily, I guess, for some people.
Well, a lot of people are married, but they're adult marriage. They're not children or not friends.
That's right. And so you just made a really interesting saying that was also in the book was people can be in a relationship but be lonely. So if somebody's listening and they sort of resonates with them, what does that mean?
Well, because the little person here has to keep on defending herself or himself. Okay, so they are married, they are obligated. They say, well, "I do," but realistically, they when they are alone, they are alone. They cannot open up.
Right.
So one of the things I would teach them to be able to have active listening, be able to hear each other, because sometimes we cannot we are wrong, but I want to be right with my husband or right with my wife.
Yeah, right.
So because how much you can defend yourself. And when especially when you're stressed out, when you're lonely, the best friend, the best buddy you have, your spouse.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So see if I've got this right. In each person in a relationship, there's an adult and a child. The two kids should be able to play together in the garden, and the adult should protect the little person when they need it. And meanwhile, the adult should be able to have an adult relationship as well. And if you have all those relationships working, then you've got a good marriage garden.
Acceptance, total acceptance. So total trust that I am safe in here. I'm safe. I don't have to be 6 feet tall, and don't have to always be right. It doesn't matter which one. The good relationship is that they are totally integrated inside of each other. They are having their independence, but they are also at ease with each other.
That's right.
They don't have to defend. And so, I mean, I have seen people in the 80s, 90s, when they have that relationship, one start one sentence, the other one finish it.
Yeah.
They are so close that, and sometimes people are doing all the right thing, but the children don't like each other.
So yeah, exactly. That's common too, I'm sure. Okay, so you're talking a little bit of conflict. I guess the last thing I want to chat about is something that's universal to everybody, no matter who we are. There's difficult conversations that occur. There's conflict in some way or another in our lives. How do people handle conflict appropriately? And I know that's a huge topic, but what advice would you give people?
One of the first conflict we have with ourselves, right? That's the conflict. But we have also conflict with others. If we conflict with ourselves, with others, we have three bad ways of dealing with it. Trying to ignore it, try to fight it, try to give in to it. Or learn to compromise. From compromise, go to solution. So sometimes with outsider, we need to have a little bit of emotional communication. Understand why the other person so important this issue with them. And why important to us with them. And not too long ago, a couple, two men, they had difficulty. And I said, sit down with him, tell him, I want to really understand why you're upset with me.
Yeah.
Don't tell him the reason. Listen carefully, let them be heard. In most of the conflict, the emotion and verbal communication, they're not the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in conflict, I have to go to the detail in the chapter, but most of the time, the person is mad with you and they find faults in you, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
If you learn to understand their emotion, to understand the conflict would ease up.
Yeah, right. Seek to understand, right? So you know where the person comes from, and you can see why. Sometimes I think that we're mad about completely different things with people, and as soon as you clarify it, then it tends to go away.
Yeah, especially if you let them why they are doing that. What's important, because sometimes value conflict.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think this is supposed to be this way. You think it's supposed to be that way. And then the conflict may not resolve, but it doesn't stand up to become a war.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So, I mean, I think I could pick your brain on this all day long. I really enjoyed your book. And for anybody who's listening that is really liking what they're hearing, this advice, how are they able to get a copy of it?
Well, everywhere. From publisher Breakwater, they said they sell it everywhere. But Amazon, Chapter, everywhere. There's in a Cole, and I saw it in the Cole the other day. I was feeling really great because I feel first time I see my book in the shelf.
Yeah.
It was good for my ego for a bit.
Well, I'm going to ask that last question. That's the last question I want to leave with. You know, you've dedicated your life to helping people. How does it make you feel to be able to write this book and make this contribution?
I feel that what I have learned is not forgotten. Mm-hmm. And it's written someplace. Somebody could tell each other, and they can go back and check it. They have time to read it themselves. If they don't understand it, they can read it again. Mm-hmm. And it's simple language. It's not complicated. I didn't make a psychology book. And I put my own struggle in terms of learning how to have a grip of word.
Yeah. How
to change the country and be able to integrate in the country. How to let the dirt go of my mind. How understand my value system, and don't impose it on other people. Mm-hmm. Is a simple way of explaining things, especially in relationship, purpose of life, get rid of the dirt, get rid of the fear. It's very simple way of explaining.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people can benefit from it. Like you said, we've all got challenges in our lives. We're all unique. And it sounds like there's a lot of advice in that book. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you to Dr. Khalili for joining me today. Now, I often don't share too much personal information about my health, but in the case of today's topic, I feel the need to be open with everybody listening. Mental health is something that a lot of people struggle with and often feel ashamed about coming forward with. Well, I first met Dr. Khalili over 10 years ago when my father was passing away from cancer. He helped me navigate the barrage of emotions that came with losing a parent and the impacts it has on our lives. I've never lost contact with him, and he's become a valuable friend in my life. I can speak from personal experiences that the lessons he shared today can make a dramatic impact on your life, whether that be getting rid of negative patterns by cleaning out our dirty minds, or balancing our lives using the Khalili grid, or finding our purpose, or even knowing ourselves. There's plenty of things we can work on. Carl Rogers once said, "The good life is a process, not a state of doing. It's a direction, not a destination." Now, if you've lost your way and need a compass, I highly recommend grabbing a copy of Dr. Khalili's book. I've read it front to back and will be keeping a copy handy for quick reference when those inevitable mazes of life had me chasing my emotions in the wrong direction. Well, that's our show today. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Wall. We'll see you back here next week for another episode of The Wall Show on your VOCM.